Hello, my name is Robin Sullivan. I'm a very blessed Diamond Senior Ruby Ambassador, and I'm so honored and so privileged to be asked to share some tips from the top. So thank you, Alita and Jennifer, for coordinating this and setting this up for our teams to all glean and grow. But I was asked to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is leadership. And so today I'm going to be sharing just a little bit with you from the amazing John Maxwell. I've learned so much from him, became a certified, John Maxwell certified coach years ago. And so still gleaning so much wisdom from him. And so some of the things I'm going to be referencing is coming from his Leader Shift book. And one of the things that I think is really important when you begin to build and grow an organization with Plexus is that pleasing people is not the same as leading people. Okay. And really, to get the best out of people, we must ask the best from people. So, setting those high standards is so, so important. You will never really know if people are with you until you ask them for a commitment. And I think a lot of times as leaders, we're so afraid to ask people for a commitment to achieve, and a commitment to do the work, a commitment to see this through to completion. And so I'm going to read directly from his book this amazing paragraph about being willing to ask for commitments from the people on your team. When you don't ask for commitment, you keep the uncommitted and you lose the committed. Isn't that true, y'all? You choose who you lose. I also learned that respect is most often earned on difficult ground. People respect leaders who make the hard decisions, who lead by example in tough times instead of just giving orders, who put others first, and who value people enough to ask them to rise up to the greatness that is within them. Guys, people love coming to an organization and a company and a culture like Plexus, and they stick around when you build an atmosphere, you build a community of people who are all growing together and moving in the same direction, have a common goal. People like being a part of something that's bigger than just themselves. And people actually do thrive in environments where they feel seen, they feel heard, they feel valued, and that they are growing to reach their full potential. And so this is what great leaders do, right? And to get the best out of people too, guys, you have to remember that you need to believe the best about people. Okay. Only then will you give them your best and ask them to give you their best, right? You have to have this internal belief in the people that you've brought into your organization. And if you don't know a lot of people in your organization very well, it's your job as a leader to get to know them well, right? So you can have that true, genuine, authentic belief in them and a genuine desire to see them reach their full potential. Leaders also effectively communicate. This is another thing that I've learned along the way in this whole leadership long game, right? Like if you want to build a legacy business, you got to have this mindset to be in it for the long haul. And I had to learn many times the hard way that I have to increase my level of effectiveness in the area of communication, right? You need to think about what are the expectations for the interactions that you have with people on your team. Whenever I invite someone to have a conversation with me, I always let them go first, right? I just open the conversation with tell me how things are going for you. How do you think things are going in your business? And even if I'm not in that business conversation with them yet, if I'm just prospecting someone, I still give them the floor and let them go first, right? It's not only polite, but honestly, guys, it's just smart, right? Asking a good question without this slanted preamble is really good because you can find out what the person that you're talking to, what they're really thinking. And I don't know about y'all, but it's more important that I really understand where their head is at and what really is going on in their mind and what they're really thinking than it is for me to just put out there what I want them to think, right? It's also really important that if I listen first, the odds are going to increase that they're actually going to want to listen and receive what I have to say because they've already gotten out what they wanted to say. So they're just going to be more apt to be more in tuned and more invested in what you're saying because they've already said what they wanted to say, right? So it just makes sense. The other thing is that great leaders, they also set the expectation that we all must keep growing. I don't know about you guys, but I have really prided myself in building an organization that everyone who joins my team, they know that we have a very, very serious focus on personal growth and development and leadership development. And the reason why is because how do you grow any organization? If you think about really successful people, not just in Plexus, but outside of Plexus, maybe even in the corporate world, how do you grow any organization? You grow it through the growth of its individual members, right? You grow an organization through the growth of the people who actually make up the organization. And so John Maxwell's law of the lid says specifically that leadership ability determines a person's level of effectiveness. And this is so true. That's the reason why we have to be focusing on developing leaders on our team, because that's what's going to create a strong organization that will thrive for years to come, right? So I expect anyone who joins my team to be intentional about personal and professional growth. This is so incredibly important. And the teams that grow together, they're going to move forward. So if you're growing together or you're either going to grow apart, right? It's either or, right? So you have to make the choice as the leader. Do you want your team growing together? And if you're focusing on personal and professional growth, you will be growing together. Otherwise, if you're not really focused on anything in particular as it relates to growth, as it relates to leadership development, eventually as a team, you will grow apart, right? The other thing that good leaders do is that they are also prepared to change. This is really, really huge, right? If growth is expected, y'all, change is absolutely going to be essential. You have to be willing and able at any moment in time to pivot. We cannot grow without changing, right? And so the very fact that I do something better today, all that means is that I learned and improved something yesterday. And so we have to be willing to emphasize those small incremental areas of growth and improvement and point those out in people on a regular basis. Okay. And the last and final thing I want to talk to you guys about is that great leaders do not avoid tough conversations. And I save this for last because man, oh man, oh man, there are so many times that in this idea of leadership and growing a large organization, you're dealing with so many personalities, you're dealing with so many different types of people that many, many times we shy away from having those tough conversations with the spirit of helping that person to reach their full potential and helping them to become the best version of themselves. A lot of times we shy away from that, right? But we should never delay tough conversations. The more you wait, y'all, the more difficult they become. Okay. And this is why I'm just going to share a couple of points with you so you really understand why it's so important that when you see a blind spot in a team member or you see that someone is, they're being held back by something or they have some barrier that they really need help overcoming, that you point those things out. If you see a pattern that's being created in their business, that you share those things, even though it may sting, it may hurt because it's the truth. These are reasons why you don't want to avoid having tough conversations and delaying them. First, silence to most people means approval, y'all. So if you don't say anything, guess what? The person that is gleaning from you and that you're guiding and that you're leading, they're going to think that everything's copacetic, right? Because you haven't said anything. So silence a lot of times is mistaken for approval. It means approval in that person's mind. The second thing is that when people have to fill in the blanks themselves, they usually go down the negative road. How many of you have had maybe even a prospect that you're reaching out to and you literally get crickets? You're like, they're not responding. What's happening? And what does your brain automatically do? Most of the time, it goes down a negative road until you've mastered your mindset and you have figured out, hey, man, this isn't personal. This isn't even really about me. Most people take some years to get there. But until you get there, most of the time, if you have silence or crickets with the prospect or even with the teammate, you start going down that negative rabbit hole. And so The same is true if someone is you're having this tough conversation, or you've had the tough conversation and ended poorly, and then you don't go back and readdress it. Guess what? That person is going to go down the negative rabbit hole instead of assuming the best and assuming the positive, right? Also, problems left unaddressed, they tend to have a snowball effect. So if you have an issue with something on your team or someone on your team and you don't do anything about it, most of the time it's only going to get bigger, it's going to get larger, and it's going to gain momentum. So you really want to address it head on, and you want to address it early on. Also, problems left unaddressed, they start to cause this inner erosion. Okay. I don't know about y'all, but if I know that I should be addressing something with someone on my team and I'm choosing not to, I'm willfully choosing not to address it, I'm avoiding having that tough conversation, I start to lose respect for myself internally, right? Because I know that as a leader, I need to be addressing it head on. I know that I need to be doing what's best not only for myself as a leader to be a good leader, but also what's best for that teammate in order to help that teammate to grow. It starts to cause this inner erosion within yourself, and you don't want that. And then finally, it's just the law of diminishing intent. It goes into effect when you avoid having tough conversations. The longer you wait to do something you know you should be doing now, the greater the odds that you are never going to do it, right? How many of you have gone so long without following up with someone, whether it's someone on your team that's just a product user, or you've gone so long without getting back with someone or responding to a message that you know you should have responded to. The longer you wait to respond and you know you're already late in responding, the more likely that you're never going to respond, because it gets more embarrassing. It gets more like, yeah, I'm a loser because I have not reached out to this person. I have not contacted them back. I have not followed back up with them. And it just gets magnified. And so one of these days truly does become none of these days. So I hope that you guys can glean just a little bit from making sure that you don't avoid these tough conversations. To get the best out of people, leaders must ask the best from their people to effectively communicate, and really to be prepared to change and pivot at all times. These are all characteristics of effective, good, and really great leadership. So, pleasing people is not the same as leading people. We want to lead our people to greatness. So, you guys have a great day, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of the tips from the top. I know you will. Bye, everybody.